to call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just going to put down infamous.
Hello, and thank you for joining Infamous, the audio podcast. I'm Brandon, or Muteless on the forums.
I'm Parker. Usually go by Tweak.
I'm Jeremy. I go by J-Bone now, I think.
J-Bone.
Is that cool?
I thought you went by the robot. So quick announcements. Awesome. We're sorry for Jeremy not knowing computers. Like, he didn't know they existed, unfortunately, until about an hour ago. Yeah, so
computers are bad.
Our last episode wasn't super great. Hopefully this one's going to be a lot better. Due to Jeremy not deleting his audio.
Apologize.
So, first topics for today, we're going to talk about a couple quick things. So, first, currently playing, I've gotten some games in with our list we made in episode 1. And I have a small little surprise for you guys, because I don't think I've told you yet. I found another list hiding inside of our list. Did you know
list?
That?
It's like a Russian doll of lists.
Yeah, it's just lists all the way down. So, basically, you cut Loki and Thor, right, from the list, and you just add in all the cheap guys, and it's great. It works fine. And so,
but wait, wasn't Loki and Thor the point?
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I was so surprised, because I got tired of playing 17 points with the list. I'm like, man, this same 4-character list is kind of boring, and so you just cut Thor and Loki, you don't play Hela, and you basically take everyone else, and it's 17 points. It's Captain America, Iron Man, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Valkyrie, and Rocket. You don't take, obviously, Odin's Blessing, you take Avengers Assemble, and you don't take Sibling Rivalry, and then you basically just have one card left to not take from your selection of 6 that's remaining, and which is probably going to be drop-off. For a couple reasons. The main one being that you only have Iron Man for flying characters, and you only really have one dedicated melee character. But, that being said, I think it was a pretty good list. I played it against Web Warriors, and it was pretty good. Other than that, I've pretty much just played our list we've made since last week. I think I got one game with Black Order, but other than that, I've been playing all our list. I played a game against Max. I did not win. I lost with the list, even though I thought I was going to win. I played almost exclusively Gamma Wave on all of these games. But I don't think that it's right at 15 points to play Avengers. I think you should play Asgardians at 15 points. Which surprised me, the number of games I played where Asgardians was the correct list option. Like Parker was talking about before. Almost always you think you'd end up in Avengers, but there's actually a lot of games I preferred playing as Guardians. So that was fun. Moving on to hobby projects, I'm the only one that plays this game. I am almost done with my Black Order diorama. I'm pretty excited. I did that mostly today, and hopefully it'll be done maybe tomorrow, probably Friday though. So Jeremy, I hear that you've done some hobbying.
Yeah, I finally got everything together and painted Black Order. I painted Peter Quill and his buddies, which is Groot and Rocket.
Just those two? He's not friends.
Yeah,
not friends with the rest of the crew.
I need to get Drax done because he's so phenomenal. Drax is so good. And he kind of goes everywhere with me. He's my buddy. So, yeah, but I think I painted, I think there's like 10 models or 9 or something. But, yeah. So now I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. So how many models would you say you've painted since we last talked? 5? Oh, no, because you painted all 5 of the Black Order. And then 3 Guardians?
3.
So 8?
8. Yeah, I painted 8.
8 models in a week? That's pretty good.
For me, yeah.
At that rate, you might even keep up with the release schedule.
Well, you know how to go with me. I'll just get angry and then paint them all. Like, it'll just happen.
Yeah.
I just can't
That's
stop.
pretty much where I'm at. I can't get motivated to paint unless I'm playing the game. And so now that I'm playing again, I can't stop painting. Like, I turned down overtime at work to sit at home and paint. I don't think that's ever been true of me in the history of, existence.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
You like money.
This must be a good game.
I do like.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely looking at lists and thinking, okay, what do I got here? What isn't painted that I need in this list? And things are going to start getting painted pretty quickly here.
I definitely am enjoying painting a whole faction at a time, because originally I was just painting whatever I wasn't playing, and that doesn't work anymore because there's too much stuff I'm not playing with. And so painting a whole faction not only lets me do dioramas for every faction, but also gets me really excited. I don't know why. It's been fun. So moving on to our next segment, which is going to be a lot bigger than normal, we have news.
News.
All right. So today, on October 14th, Wolverine and Sabretooth cards were spoiled on the Atomic Mass Facebook page.
Wolverine, Sabretooth.
Do we have anything to say about this, guys?
It is the best day ever.
I am really pumped.
So good.
Yeah, I am really excited.
Second best day ever.
I really like Wolverine. I think he's a super strong 4-pointer. I love that his defensive stats are 4-3-2. I think it's great.
Agreed.
I love that his backside is less health than his front side, but it has a really badass passive that's very good. Mm-hmm. Especially when he's got healing factor, so he's continuously like coming back from the dead. Also, a very small part of his card that I really, really like, both for flavor and I think it's really cool, is I don't know if this is the first character we've seen like this. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but immunity to stagger and stun. Usually, we see people immune to like poison.
I was actually
and bleed.
I was just gonna bring that up. He's immune to stun on the front, but on the back, he's immune to stagger as well. I didn't realize that till just now. He picks up immunity to stagger on the backside, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I really like, he's tenacious, right? Persistent, and I love that they put that as an immunity, because so far it makes sense that like robots are immune to bleed and that kind of stuff. But those are all effects that, yes, it will happen every once in a while, but they're not the most debilitating effects that you're like going for as a game plan. But stagger and stun are often reached for at the top shelf abilities. I really like that Wolverine has something against those. That's cool.
I was gonna say that he appears power hungry at first glance, but the more I think about it, since he's perfectly fine just making his basic strike attack of Adamantium Slash, because it produces a lot of power and it hits surprisingly hard for a strike. Like, not quite Thor level, but basically it's basically like a Thor attack. He loses throw for Pierce, which is comparable in damage output, but he picks up bleed. I mean, he's just good in general, and so I think he's going to get to a reasonable amount of power pretty often. Also, being able to heal without spending power to do it, he's going to end up having a lot of power on him, I think, and so he'll actually be able to use his expensive abilities.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about him is healing factor. Not only does it keep keep him in the fight, but it's also functionally acting as like a recurring power battery as well. Because most like when you're looking at like the power dynamic of any character, you actually want to look at their health, because oftentimes, unless they're getting a lot of attacks off for free, oftentimes you can imagine they're going to have about as much power as they have health, maybe a little bit more depending on how well they're hitting attacks. But with Wolverine, like literally that number means less. He has infinity power coming from his health, as long as they're not hitting him, piling on him, all at once. It's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So
his card is pretty. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think everybody's had this moment where the character that you grew up with and started loving comics and kind of loving like the whole. Okay, this is the guy. So I own Wolverine 1 through 100. I own the small series before when he came out. I actually owned the first appearance at one point. It's crazy now to see him on the tabletop as an actual playable character. That's just crazy. And I'm sure everybody's got their guy who does that. Parker with like Cyclops and I don't know, Captain America or whatever, Toad, whatever. I don't know. Just
Why do you assume?
Parker said today that they finally did a panel to play on his only character he likes more than Cyclops, which is Toad. Parker looks so bad.
A guy.
He's like,
one time, a guy says, Cyclops isn't. I don't know why you guys would make a Cyclops. Cyclops is actually pretty cool. An instant heal forever.
One time, guy's like, I like Sex in the City, and then no one lets him live it down. I don't know why. It's just weird.
It's bad.
So
That's not comparable
anyway,
at all. That's not comparable at all.
it's not comparable. It's the same thing. It's literally verbatim. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with Wolverine. I think he hits a little harder than I expected him to. I expected him to just be like a little tank that you can't kill, but hits reasonably hard. But he hits pretty hard. I'm surprised. He has a lot of ways to spike his damage too, which a lot of medium-costed characters don't really do. Usually, you see more of the really expensive characters that can turn their damage up to like 11 like that. Where if you're doing like the best at what I do, where wilds count as 2, you go in, let's say you get 1 wild even on a 5 dice attack, you're probably averaging 4 to 5 damage plus pierce plus bleed. That's pretty convenient.
The fact that he is, you flip the card over, and usually we're quite disappointed, right? You flip the card over and you're like, damn it. It's the same thing on the back. On him, oh my god! You flip it over and he's got the immune to stagger, and that's really cool to see just different abilities.
Yeah, I mean Berserker Rage is range 3 first of all, so it's a big range melee. Place within range 1. Excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze.
Are you talking about Berserker Barrage?
Yeah, sorry, Berserker Barrage, and so it allows him to place to get in deep if he needs to, and then also has an automatic throw on damage. And with Wild Rage, he can get up to 11 dice on damage. And if he uses, he can't use Best at What I Do with it, but still it's 11 dice with a throw. That's pretty much automatic. That's pretty good.
Also, it's only 3 power. Like, that's really cheap for all that stuff, I think. I think that could easily have been a 4 power attack. I think it's very aggressively costed, Berserker Barrage.
He's going to have so much power on him all the time. It's going to be crazy.
I don't think he'll have that much, but yeah, it's pretty good.
I think Sabretooth is actually kind of cool too. He got spoiled. I think they're very interesting. They're just like, how many retaliation effects can we put on one character? This many. He's a giant mousetrap. Just like don't touch him. If you touch him, he's gonna jump on you and do stuff. I think that's kind of cool. I like these full of retaliation effects.
Well, I was going to say, it's actually kind of telling about how they view them in the storyline, because Sabretooth is just the more offensive version of Wolverine with way less defense built in. Like, he's definitely just all output damage. Like you said, he's got the retaliation attacks, he's got lower healing factor, lower defensive stats, but, like, his finisher attack is crazy. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so finisher after this attack is resolved, this character makes a claw attack, and rerolls a number of dice while making it, and still has pierce and bleed on his attack, just like Wolverine does. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's a huge amount of damage.
He can put out a ton, but he's supposed to be a like in the comic books, he's very much somebody tries to stab him with a sword, and then he just guts him, right? Like, that's the point. Like, he goes in all berserker type and lets people hit him. I also love that he's. I thought he was cool, and then I saw speed long, and I was like, oh. That is good. That's scary.
Oh wow!
So he gets.
I didn't notice that.
He gets in there. Yeah, he's speed long. So he's a speed long, super aggressive. Moving out of turn. I love literally the power aggressive. I love that it's passive. It doesn't cost any power. That's I think it's one of the first times we've seen somebody move out of their turn and cost
Crossbones
0 power.
has it. Crossbones has the same power.
Crossbones does too. Okay.
Is Crossbones speed long? By the way.
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
I know it's not an M. I remember that. Not medium, so he's probably long.
Probably long. Yeah, he's really
probably long.
Also, Sabretooth has 6 health on both sides, so he's actually going to get to use all of his stuff.
Same amount of health as Wolverine. It's just Wolverine has front loaded on the front side. Okay, so that's Sabretooth and Wolverine. Those two guys are obviously going to make it into their respective factions a lot, I think. Quick little note, healing factor being a generic ability in the game and not a special rule on their cards. It's just like immunity or flight. That's going to be in the rule book explained. So I like that that's nice and consistent. It says anyone that has a healing ability that's passive like that is going to be the same. And because it's like that, it will probably end up being referenced on tactics cards. Like, so there might be a card that says shuts down healing factor or like double healing factor for the round or something. Like, I would expect to see that referenced.
Only attaches to a healing. Only can be played by a healing factor character or something like that. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we might see something like that. Because pretty much everyone involved in the Wolverine universe, we'll say, pretty much everyone has healing factor of his like little cadre, because there's like Lady Deathstrike and like basically all of Wolverine's villains are just Wolverine on a bad day. Like they're just different Wolverine. And it's generally true of like the Flash and people like that. Like somehow
that's true.
All of their villains are just them in another universe. Like, come on.
Well, but, it's common. Yeah. It's common that one of the largest foils for a protagonist is the flip of the coin, right? The flip side. Mm-hmm. So Sabretooth represents like what happens if Wolverine shed his humanity and gave in to the Berserker, right? Gave in to the murder machine and just let that be who he was. Let that define him as a person.
Or Deadpool, where if he didn't take anything too seriously.
Yeah. If he OD'd on Valium and then couldn't un-OD.
Un-OD?
Can you OD on LSD? Because that's just Deadpool.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. We have the unveiling of the banned and restricted list.
Yeah, kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, kind of. Definitely important for moving forward. Conveniently, about every card we talked about putting in our list is on either the banned or restricted list. I feel like that gives us a good inclination that we're on the right track when building lists.
That's exactly what I thought. The first thing I thought was, we're on the right. We must be doing something right because everything we paid attention to, they paid attention to. That's good.
Mm-hmm. So running through it real quick, the restricted list, if you're not familiar, because this is fairly new, you can only take 2 cards from the list. Currently, I think there's only 5 cards on it. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. It's basically a bunch of the healing cards. We have Med Pack, Patch Up, and Field Dressing, which are all really good cards. And then also Brace for Impact and Doomed Prophecy, which I think is way out of left field. How did Doomed Prophecy make this list?
Well, they explained it. They just thought that it could be abused too easily by certain characters, and
I feel like the amount of effort you have to go through to make the card work is prohibitive. Like, I guess if you have priority, so you know your character is going to immediately activate, it's basically like playing all you've got, or maybe they're worried you do both. Like, if you have Black Dwarf play Doomed Prophecy and all you've got somehow, that could be really scary, because you double activate with like 10 dice of damage. But
so what they've actually said on that is what you just said, and they don't like the play experience that created for a new player. The gotcha moment of suddenly dropping somebody for no reason at all, aside from play 2 cards, and they just got it, like a dead guy. So they didn't like that, and okay,
I haven't read that, so that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought Doom Prophecy was the obvious red herring in this group. Brace for Impact's pretty obvious. There's a lot of really expensive abilities that throw terrain, and Brace for Impact, I think, has been in every single person's 8-card list that I've seen. So putting that on there to restrict it for, like, at least make you think twice about taking it, because if you're going to take Brace, you can't also take all the healing cards.
I think you're still... I still put Brace for Impact in every deck, and then decide which one of the medical cards I want. But that's my personal philosophy.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's still going to be the case. Yeah. The big one.
But they banned Drop Off. They banned it.
No! So
it's gone.
Personally, I wish they would errata cards that were going to go on the ban list. I get that that's frustrating for people having the physical in-hand reference that is wrong. I've been there in tournaments and be like, oh, so-and-so has been errated. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm holding the card. This is the most recent printing of this card. And they're like, no, that's not right. It's really not great. But that being said, I mean, they could also just, like, the next big release that comes out, put the new copy of Drop Off in there, and with, like, an updated little symbol in the bottom showing that's been errated. Just put it in every pack for, like, 6 months or something. Like, how much does it cost them to print one card? But I get it. Just putting on the ban list is a lot simpler. But that being said, for the people that don't know it's been errated are the same people that wouldn't know it's been banned. And so, like, I think that's a little annoying. But that being said, they have said that they will look at bringing cards off the ban list in the future. The only annoying part is I feel like, obviously this card's overpowered. Mm-hmm. Paying 1 power per character to get a move and an attack is way above the curve.
Yes.
Way above. Even though it requires smaller character to be the one that's moved, the larger character has to be the one that has flight, or equal or larger.
But now there's another card that can give anybody... There's now even a card that can give anyone flight, so...
Yeah, exactly. Like you can effectively play this on almost any 2 characters. Yeah, I get it. It's really strong. It's really, really strong. I kind of wish it was just another card on the restricted list, because if Drop Off and Brace and Med Pack, Field Dressing, and Patch Up were all on the restricted list, I think that actually leads to more interesting decision making, as opposed to just you can't play Drop Off.
I mean, so what they said about Drop Off, Pagani actually said, he's like, look, we have these 50 guys that we looked at, and we put all these cards together, and it was limiting what they were able to create and focus on, like, how cool and colorful they could be and what they could do. And they're like, no, like a large base with a big move and Drop Off, the game explodes. So they were, yeah.
I would like to bring up one point right now. Are you guys ready?
Okay.
Deal.
Are you telling me Drop Off gets banned less than a month before Magneto is released for no reason?
I think Magneto was on the 61st card. Like, you know, like, he wasn't accounted for. They're like, oh shit, we have to deal with this.
And if anyone can drop someone off, it's Magneto. So, speaking of Magneto, I think we've pretty much covered the banned list. I'm not a fan of Drop Off being straight up banned. I totally understand it, though. I just not happy about it, mostly because it's a really fun card to play. But I totally agree it's overpowered. I just wish there was another way to deal with it. And there might be coming forward. Maybe we'll come out to a point where they can either figure out an efficient way to errata it, or just, you know, not have it be far and away the most action economy card in the game for the least power.
A very simple fix could be increase the power. Like that's
2 power each. I think totally brings it into a new conversation, because I think Seeing Red is the name of the card. It's basically like Vengeance. If a friend dies within like range 3, I think you pay 2 or 3 power to immediately make an attack. Like, that's just letting you make an attack, and someone has to get dazed for it to trigger.
Right.
And it costs more than Drop Off. Totally understand it's super overpowered.
Yeah.
The flight mechanic is not enough to balance that card.
Nope.
And so, totally get it. Moving on, we've got a panel in play that was released that talks about Magneto and Toad. And, oh my god, I want to play Magneto already.
I thought you were going to say Toad.
No,
I think he's going to play Toad. Great prediction. Prediction for 2020. Brandon plays Toad in every Brotherhood list.
I'm going to use Toad as a third scrap marker. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just gonna cover him in garbage.
I don't care that you don't like him. I think you're going to play him. I have this weird feeling that you are going to fall in love with Toad and what he does. He's going to be jumping around the battlefield with his weird maneuvers, and he's going to steal objective tokens. You're going to be like, hee, look at what I did with Toad, and you're going to be so happy about Toad that I think I have this feeling, because you're going to play Brotherhood for 2 months. Let's be real, right? At least only Brotherhood, right? 2 months.
I think you mispronounced the Magneto faction, but yes,
Magneto faction.
Yeah. I feel like you'll be playing them. So, since that's true, I think you're going to give Toad a try, and the first time you do it, I think you're going to fall in love with him. I don't know why. Don't ask me to explain it. I just have this feeling that Brandon Shirley will love Toad.
There'll be one.
Well, you said my last name on the podcast.
There'll be one shitty ability that Toad will have, and it'll be obnoxious and stupid. And for sure. Yeah.
Well, he can steal people's objective
Well, they've already
tokens.
said he's got really annoying... He's got really annoying abilities. They've already declared that in the panel. But, yeah, so if you haven't read it, go read it. It's really cool. They've already talked about all the kinds of abilities he's going to have. He seems like it's going to be a lot like Doctor Strange, where he's just got rules on rules on rules, which is exactly what I wanted. He's got lots of tight interaction between his mechanics. The rec markers, indeed, are going to be placed automatically as part of his gameplay. He's going to be able to do a lot of cool stuff with them. And I'm very excited.
I really like From the Ruins, the leadership ability. That sounds super cool.
Yeah, every time someone destroys a piece of terrain, the size number of characters get a power. And so if he breaks a size 3 piece of terrain, he gives 3 people a power. And so he's going to be stacking up power on people. What I'm probably going to do is just be like, I'm going to have like Magneto, the Maw, and Doctor Strange, and just say, fuck it, I don't care what faction I play. I'll probably like squeeze in Taskmaster somehow and just figure it out on the way. It's like, I'm going to do all the throw shit at you people I can. Because just take all the super power hungry great characters and just be like, here we go.
Blow up the world.
Alright. If Toad's 1 point, he's definitely making the list, just saying that. All right, moving on.
My favorite thing about Magneto, actually, my favorite thing is his Mystic Defense. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
He's got a helmet.
Mystic Defense 6.
Yeah. Spirit Magic Helmet. Spirit Magic Helmet.
He's got a helmet. That's
Yeah.
all you need.
Okay, I think that's going to wrap up our news for today.
News.
Oh boy. So, our main topic for today, we're going to be doing our first rating session of characters.
I'm really excited to do this.
Are you really excited?
I
was
excited.
really excited. And then I spent an hour getting ready to do it, and I'm less excited.
I've been excited this whole time.
Okay, so just as a good primer for everyone listening, we are going to be rating them on 4 separate categories, which we believe are all really important to the general gameplay. Then we'll be assigning them a role, and so like what basically class the character would be. So that way, if you wanted to look up, it's like, I need someone who's going to be good at board control, or someone that's going to be good at like melee damage or range damage, or whatever type of category you're looking for. That we've divided them into these categories, so you'll be able to easier identify characters that will fit that role for your list. And like we discovered when we were building lists, having lots of redundant point costs for a certain type of role, like having like what we did in our list, we basically had a bunch of different blasters we can plug in at different point totals. I think having that available and just going, you can just sort by role if you want to.
It's funny you should.
I'm going to publish our database here.
It's funny you should say blaster. What are the roles, Brandon? What are the roles?
It's
Should we
just
start with
blaster and not blaster. Those are the 2 roles.
Are
Blaster,
we-
not blaster.
Are we going to describe them real quick, or are we just going to?
Yeah, I'll run
go?
through it real quick. And
Okay.
then we've also given what we consider to be like the paragon of each category of like, if you had to have a basic example of what this role does, here's a character example for you. So first one is Blaster. It's a range damage focused character. It's pretty self-explanatory. The example we gave is Rocket Raccoon. All he cares about is dealing range damage, so it's a good example.
All he cares about is love. Go ahead.
What the fuck was that? All right, next up is
Catholic hymn.
Next up is Controller. Coming from a War Machine background, we deem this to be anything that manipulates the game state or prevents your opponent from taking specific actions. And so we've identified this as any board manipulation, action control, or debuffing is we've classified this as. One of the examples we gave is Peter Parker Spider-Man. He has the ability to change the board state more than any other individual character, I think. And so, good example here. Brute is our next category. It is a tank or a frontline fighter, someone who focuses on survivability for themselves mostly. Example I gave was Black Dwarf. So the number one thing is just basically surviving an onslaught of damage. Someone you can send to a point to hold it and not worry about them falling immediately. Next up, we have a Scrapper, someone who is melee damaged focus, someone who is willing to go in as a scalpel and try and remove a specific piece up close. The example we gave is Corvus Glaive. Corvus Glaive is obviously great at just going in, deciding who dies.
With a literal scalpel.
Yeah, literally a scalpel that will cut through anything.
Yeah,
Never die scalpel.
Yeah, next up is this Skirmisher role. Someone who's very mobile. It's good at getting to points quickly and evading, staying alive while maybe removing an extraction token. So mobility, elusiveness, and hit and run type tactics. I have Black Widow on here. Perfect example. Last role is Defender. Someone who focuses on supporting, buffing, and protecting the rest of your team. As an example, I put down Captain America. Even though he's kind of a brute, he mainly focuses on protecting others and supporting others. He's got, obviously his faction ability helps a lot, and the bodyguard mechanic. He's there to help other people, not to be great himself. All right, so those are our 6 roles. If we ever find something that doesn't fit into these 6, we might come up with a new role, because obviously there's a infinite number of possible characters that could be released that do all kinds of different things. All right, so that brings us to what we will be rating today. And since we have made our podcast list that we've been playing lately, I decided that we should do the Asgardians first, because it'd be a nice little package of 4 characters. They're generally spread around in different categories.
Deal.
Okay, so moving on. Jeremy, did you have something to say?
I was going to say, it's interesting because 2 of them I think I know. I'm like, I know where they fit. And then 2 of them, I'm kind of curious as to see where they land.
I think I have 3 of the 4 in my head locked into what role they are. Okay, So we're gonna start easy. We're gonna give us a nice little softball here. Valkyrie. Valkyrie is gonna be pretty easiest for us to rate. All right, and there's a couple things I haven't told you guys about yet that I have kind of like as baselines. Personally, when it comes to a rating system, I am very harsh. I think we've talked about this before. When people are like, "This game is a 9.99 out of 10," and you're like, "This game sucks. Like, why did you rate this anything above a 2?" But I think we should be very harsh, very crucial on these. Consider that the number 10 out of 10 might not have been released yet. Like we've talked about, like, obviously Magneto's going to be a 10 across the board, but moving on. Valkyrie, offensive output. How well she contributes to dealing damage. Obviously, this is going to be her best stat because she's Valkyrie. She has two dragon fangs and likes to use them. So, out of all the characters in the game, there's not a lot of people that outdamage her, I'll say that. But she's obviously not a 10. Corvus Glaive, probably a 9.
I was going to say, I would put her somewhere, somewhere between 7 and 8, I think.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm sitting.
So, I mean, you look at the things for a damage output. So, she can attack, good lord, like 4 times. She also has charge. She has charge on her card. Yeah. And attacks. Good lord.
She has good action economy. She's not slow, like Crossbones. So she's going to be able to get to the fight. She's going to be able to focus on someone she wants to. She gets good power generation, so her high-cost attacks and actions aren't that hard for her to use. She has the ability to throw people, so she can either break up bodyguards or increase damage by throwing people into people or objects into people or whatever you need to do. I think I'm sitting at an 8, honestly, right now. So the biggest problem she has, I'll tell you from experience, are even though she can roll a decent amount of dice with 7 on her Dragon Fang, she doesn't get any modifications. She can't use rerolls. She can use Warrior of Legend, but it's super hit and miss because it's all about rolling wilds and crits, which is a 1 in 4 per die. So if you're not rolling wilds and crits, like if you just roll like 3 hits and that's it for for a Dragon Fang attack, it's super uninspiring. But if you start landing those wilds and those crits, she can spike super high on damage. Like she can pretty easily put out 10 damage in a single attack with a lucky roll, which is not going to be defendable by almost anybody. That's actually straight up.
And that's actually what I think a lot of people, if you've played against her or you've played her, I feel like what you'll see Valkyrie do is she'll be really quiet for maybe a while. Like she'll have lots of activations where you don't see her do a whole lot, and all of a sudden she'll have an activation where she kills anything in the game.
It's like, these 3 characters are now dazed or dead. Please get them out of my way.
Right. But then you'll have 5 turns maybe in a row, or 5 turns across 2 games where you just won't see her do much because she's like you said, she's very spiky. It's non-consistent damage. It is super spike damage. Burst.
Yeah. Potential is definitely, I think, a 9 or a 10. But because she lacks the consistency or any way to gain it herself, or even within the faction, really, I think it drops down to an 8. And I'm pretty happy with an 8.
I would actually say go down to a 7, but I could give her an 8.
If she didn't have the throw, I think I'd agree with the 7. But when I'm like, reach for someone who you can plug into a list that can murder people, I think Valkyrie's on the short list. And
also, I would like to say, so Parker, if you went with a 7, let me remind you that she is only 3 cost to play her. So that brings it to an 8 to me.
The efficiency of the character obviously helps.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, because if she was like a 5-point character, I'd probably rate her like at a 6 because that's a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, she's in the hot zone, man. She's a 3. Also, that's crazy.
Also,
Jeremy,
the fact that she's go ahead.
I was gonna say, Jeremy, what's your rating opinion right now?
God, I mean, she's a 3. She can make her output is insane.
But it is inconsistent. Like, if you can easily have those turns where, let's say, you drop 5 power on Dragon Fang Warrior of Legend, if you don't hit a wild, that's not very impressive. Like, you're doing like 4 or 5 damage, and then your opponent's probably going to defend 1 or 2. You know, she's doing a good chunk, but it's not like Corvus Glaive level damage. It's not like Hulk level damage.
But Corvus Glaive is what, a 4 or 5, right? He's a 4.
Corvus Glaive is a 9.
No,
I mean point cost?
Power.
Well, sure, but she's not relatively higher because of point cost. Her being a 3-point character helps the argument.
You have a 3-point character with a throw built in as well. So, yeah, you can't count on wilds. You never can. But the amount it's going to take to get her off the table and get her out of the game, like in...
The throw is only size 2
sure,
as well.
It's a dude. She's going to chuck a dude, basically.
Well,
But
not if you're attacking like a Thanos.
But if we're focusing on just offense, then I think she can be an 8.
I think that's what we're focusing on,
because
right?
of right. But you started to talk about like how much it takes to take her off the table and things, and that's
Sure.
But I think
I wasn't trying to, but yeah. So, Jeremy, what's your?
I'd do an 8. I'd feel okay with that.
All right, I'm definitely voting 8. I think she just barely squeaks into an 8. Parker, even if you're a 7, you're overruled. Feel free to join us though.
no, I said between 7 and 8. So round up to 8. That's fine.
We'll do 8.1.
Let's
that
do
way we know it's on the low end.
8.1.
Yeah.
She needs to be careful. She could drop into that 7 at any point. Have to go talk to her
All right.
professor.
All right, defense. All right, we took a long time on that 8, but defense.
I think she's isn't like she the definition of a 5, or like 3s straight across the board and no defensive ability.
This is where I actually have planned this ahead a little bit. I hard disagree with a 5.
Okay.
I think she's a 3 out of 10 because if you look across the game, having a 2 in a defensive stat is an objective weakness, right? Mm-hmm. Anyone who has a 2 in a stat, you're like, that guy's bad at this. And she has no other defensive abilities whatsoever. She has no rerolls, no mods, no stealth, nothing. She is baseline. There's a decent amount of characters that have 3 defense across the board, but almost, like, I'd say less than half of them have nothing for defense. Like, Drax has damage reduction, like, Black Widow has a 2 in a category and 2 defensive abilities, though.
Okay,
I don't know. I think anyone who's... Go ahead.
My argument for a 5 was if we're not using this as a bell curve, if we're not thinking like most characters, like the average character should be a 5, I felt like this is a very average character. It is just 3s, no defensive abilities. Like there's no icing on the top, there's no cherries. It's just a very standard 3s. 3 is by far the average defense stat in the game. So
no, I totally agree with you on that point, but that's what I'm saying is like there's not that many characters that don't have a strength on defense, like at all.
It takes a card or a friend to help her. Like I've seen her get flattened so many times just standing there. Like I'm gonna go do some things, and she does, kills a dude, whatever, and then gets dropped.
I mean, obviously, her being a 3-point character, you can't expect her, and with her damage output, you can't expect her to be super survivable. But that's not what the scale is. It's like, of characters in the game, like Thanos to Rocket Raccoon, I think she's a 3.
She's a 3.
I think
yep,
if those are spectrum, like she has 11 hit points, which is surprisingly high for nothing else. But her lack of, like, no stealth, she's not super mobile. She doesn't have martial arts, no mods, no succeed on blanks. Like her biggest survivability mechanic is that she has to be dazed before she can be killed. I think anyone
now that I understand that 5 is not the average. Like we're growing by look. Your key phrase in there was compared to other characters in the game. I'm marker 3. We only have 12 characters. We got like a bunch of stats to go. Let's roll. 3.
Jeremy?
It's fine. I'm good. 3 is good.
3 is good.
I'm good with that. Yep.
The quickest stat, support. She has no support. And so, Can we think of a single thing she does to help her teammates? Because damage isn't one of those things.
The only thing I can think of is Asgardian allows her to activate cards a little bit easier than other cards. So if you drop her on a list
that's not her supporting other people, though.
Well, if you wanted any of the tandem cards, right? Any of the cards that say 2 of your characters must spend a power to make this thing happen. Like, so she can make that happen slightly more easy. But that's the only thing I can think of. Isn't that horrible? So yeah, I'm fine with it being 0.
Can I get 1 because she can throw Captain America away from the rest of the team?
That's not support ability. That's a control ability.
It's control ability. Yeah, she does have
true. Yep.
Yeah. I'm putting a 1 here. I can't think of a single thing she could do other than play the sacrifice card, which so can literally every other character in the game.
Yeah, I'm not excited about her in that.
Okay, so moving on to control. She obviously has a throw. She can throw up to size 2. she generates enough power every turn to perform said throw, which is pretty handy. But that being said, that's not a huge amount of control.
I'd say what, like a 3 maybe?
I'm feeling a 3. Jeremy, how strong do you think being able to double move... Okay, she gets to double move and throw every turn. This is one of Richard's points as to why he loves her, is you can move from one of your points to one of their points and throw them off of it. And it's like, ha, I got you. But she only throws size 2 characters. It's like Ultron, MODOK, any of those people standing on a point, she can't do anything.
I don't think that has so many characters can do something that's much more easier to do and control-y. I don't know. 4?
You think she's a 4?
I mean,
I don't.
Having a throw though is a big deal.
But
it is. But if it wasn't required size 2 or less, because there's more and more characters that aren't size 2. Like usually, honestly, the weird part is like the more expensive the character, the more likely they're size 3. I think is what's happening recently.
Yeah.
So I don't know, because a lot of those like big beefy brute type characters on points are gonna be really hard for you to get away. I think 3 is a respectable control stat because a lot of characters have 0. Like they have no ability to control at all.
I like 3 for her also because even if you got this cool move twice and throw, that's if there's no terrain in the way. That's if they they oblige it to happen. It seems too conditional. Even though it's cool, and one of the conditions is not
only
she has
range
enough power.
2 and she only throws short. It's literally the worst throw you could have. Because it's never less than range 2, it's never less than size 2, and it's never less than range short. So it's the worst throw you can put on a card, but it only costs 2 and she generates 2 power, which is great.
It's not the worst. It could be on wild. I mean, shit. You would have to get...
No, because it's a power, though. It's not an action. It's just a power.
Sure.
So I put her at a 3, because even if you're strong at 4, we're going to outvote you at 3.
I'm not going to argue on a 3. I don't care. It's fine.
I'll put a 3.5 for you.
3.2.
3.4. 3.44.
3.14. Repeat.
9er.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So, and then we move on to roll. So everyone say it with me on 3. 1, 2, 3. Scrapper. Okay. Obviously, no. She's super obvious. Scrapper. Everyone knew what she was going to be when we started. So now the rating: 1 out of 10 overall rating of the character. Obviously, she's a 3-point character that's designed to deal damage in melee. She has a great kit for that. Jeremy, what's your opinion? Overall rating. She hits. How well does she hit her designed roll?
Her designed roll, point cost, roll up everything into what she was designed to do, and man, at least an 8.
Ooh, at least an 8. Parker, your 7 has been invalidated. It has to be at least an 8.
I actually, because of her point value, how many things she has in her package, and honestly, to me, she easily makes an 8 for the only thing we haven't talked about a lot, which is Asgardian. The ability to double your power, like double the efficiency of the game, period. Like, everybody in the game gets 1, but she is a 3-point character that gets 2, and all of her powers are 2, and her amazing attack only costs 3. Like, she's so efficient, and she doesn't have like a lot of downsides. Except unless you wanted a support character for 3 points, like when that's your only downside, I think she's easily an 8. That's she's very strong in this game. Period. At the end, so I say 8 at least easily. I don't know if she makes 9. I honestly don't. I don't know if she meets. I don't know if she makes 9. I don't know if she makes 9.
That was my next question: is do either of you think she hits 9?
I don't.
For models in the game currently,
Jeremy?
Sure, why not? I mean, her role is what it is. We've called it. She does her job. I could say
why not is because she's not a 9. That's why not. Do you think she's a 9? Is she going to be in the top 10 percentile of the entire game?
I don't know that. I haven't played with.
Okay, that's a strong statement. Yeah. Strong.
I know who I'm putting. I know who I'm putting as an overall rating for a 9, and she's not a 9. So I think she's an 8.
She's not. Interesting. Oh, I know who you're talking about. All right. We're going to leave that alone. Don't talk about that anymore.
Nope, not now. Not yet.
Okay, I agree with an 8, and I think we're pretty well settled on 8, because Jeremy's an 8.5, we're both 8s. I feel like 8's pretty high for our first rating, but I think she edges out a lot of 4-point melee damage dealers, like a lot of 4-point scrappers. She actually edges out as a 3-point character, which is a pretty strong statement. So I think I'm pretty comfortable saying she's an 8.
She's one of the most aggressively costed characters in the game.
Agreed. The 2 power is really where that domino falls, I think. She wasn't Asgardian, didn't get 2 power a turn. Totally different conversation.
Yeah.
All right. So, moving on. Yeah, because with her power generation, taking a couple damage on the way in or picking up like a cube, she can easily like charge Dragon Fang, Warrior of Legend, and just like decapitate somebody out of nowhere from far away. And it's like, yeah, that's really good. Okay, moving on.
I love how Brandon said moving on, and in the next breath continue to explain how much he loves
Hey,
Brunhilde.
we've talked about the most important Asgardian for the longest time. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Loki, Luffy's son.
LaFay-son.
I didn't even see his last name.
LaFay
Oh
son.
my god.
Yeah. Well, it's because he's son of Luffy.
Yeah.
He's the son of the Frost Giant King.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. That's why Thor is Thor Odin's
Odin's
son,
son.
because he's the son of Odin. All right.
Dummy.
Offense.
I would say like a 4?
So yeah, his basic attack being 5 dice, which is pretty standard. So I feel like it's kind of like the 3s across the board argument, where it's a 3, but he has a beam 3 attack that doesn't cost power, that has a special condition applied to it. That's pretty good. So that ups him a little bit. And then he has a really cool mystic attack, which is a rare damage type. So I think that maybe ups him again. And then he has I Am a God, which can make him succeed on blanks, which gives him a lot of opportunity to do some stuff. I think I'm coming in at a soft 6. That guy can be talked up or down pretty easily, because he really doesn't do a lot of damage. He doesn't devote a lot of his power to dealing damage. But that being said, he has potential to deal some damage.
I was going to say, if you leave him alone and he didn't have to spend any of his power to do any of the other things he does, then yes, he would probably get to do damage over the course of the game. But if you did that for Loki, he would do some damage. If you did that for Valkyrie, she'll eat your whole team. So I don't know if he goes to a 6. Maybe I would be willing to meet. The first thing I thought was a 4, just based upon my experience playing against him. So I would put him maybe as a 5. I could see. I did forget he had a beam attack. That's pretty cool.
I would actually say the opposite.
Slow.
When you leave him alone is when he doesn't deal damage. But when you're going like hog wild trying to kill him, he usually gets a lot of power, and so he can retaliate really well. Yeah, 6 might be a little aggressive. I've just seen him do a lot. He doesn't have a lot of attack dice, and he generally doesn't get to use his illusions very often.
Also,
I think
he's another character.
5 is probably more accurate.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what's
also
your
he
thoughts?
does get blanks, but he doesn't reroll or manip. That's another thing.
Correct.
Everything he does,
good, though.
everything he does, he has to spend to do I'm a God. Like that. If you're not doing that, he's really not producing much. So, I mean, yeah, his powers are free, but are they? So I put him in a 5. I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. I'm pretty comfortable with the 5. Let's see. There's something else I wanted to mention real quick. Nope. That's later. Okay, moving on to defense. So obviously starting at a 3, having a 4 Mystic defense is nice, but I don't think it's enough to get him to a 4, obviously, because Mystic is pretty rare. Moving down, though, obviously I Am a God also works on defense rolls, which is a pretty powerful defensive mechanic. Going for... Oh, that was what I want to talk about. So paying for I Am a God, you go from 3 and 8 chance on a D8 to a 5 and 8 chance on a D8, which is pretty good. But I wanted to mention that on the offensive side, you go from a 4 and 8 to a 6 and 8 on offense, which is really strong. But anyway, Trickster, also really good for defense. Being able to basically escort to safety yourself. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful. So, but with those two combined, I'm going to go with a 6.
I was actually going to count God of Mischief in there too, right? Because people have to spend more power to do things at him.
I will say on the injured side, it is definitely a defensive mechanic. But on the front side, it's more of just a control mechanic. Because making them spend more power on superpowers is... it's a little bit of defense maybe, but not much. Maybe it's the tipping point to get to a 6.
I think he has his defensive abilities are kind of crazy to me. When I'm using him, I really don't look too much at his offensive ability. It's more or less where do I put him so he can get out of the way and defend basically and not be touched, be obnoxious, and then get back to where he needs to be. So if you're landing him in a 6, I'll just be the one. I'll say he's a 7 because
I actually put him at a 7 in my first glance too. Just stacking up I Am a God and Trickster on the injured side, God of Mischief. I think he is. I think he is one of the most. Another thing I love about him, and part of the defense, is he's sticky without being obviously sticky. He doesn't have like a simple rule. It's all this. He's the God of Mischief. He's very tricksy. I don't know. I have tried to remove him before. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just devote these 2 characters' activation to killing Loki, and then he's like, nope. I'm like, oh, okay.
For a 10 hit point, 3 defense character, this dude certainly doesn't die very often. I'm going to put him down as a 7. I think you guys have swung me up. It's just part of it might also be the fact that he generally doesn't stand in threatened areas. He tends to be a little bit further back, so you're kind of fighting through their army to get to him. Adds to his defense a little bit, because that compounded with Trickster is really annoying, because you can't just move into range and shoot him because he's just going to back up. It's super frustrating. You can quite easily spend a bunch of a power on a big attack. He Tricksters away and you lose all your power, and then you can't afford to do your ranged attack. It's pretty annoying.
I find him to be one of the strongest. If I have him on the table and he's where he needs to be, I'm pretty certain you're not getting him off the board. I mean, think of how many characters can do that. Not many.
Yeah, it's not a lot. It's usually like Corvus Slave getting teleported in. He's just delivering death. And you're like,
yeah,
all right, well, this is our only option, so here we go. Yeah, it's usually some great effort to get him off table. And I will say, if the only times Loki dies is when I have already lost the game, and so that's probably a big statement. Moving on to support. Having the Space Stone available is a decent amount of support, but realistically, outside of that, he really doesn't support anybody. I'm going to go with a 2.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have to.
He isn't even going to. He isn't going to take the Space Stone very often, but having it available means he can, and a 1 basically means you don't have support. So I think I'm going with a 2. Jeremy?
That's fine. A 2 feels about right. I can't imagine taking a stone like that with him. I mean, making him expensive just makes it so much worse.
All right. Control. All right, this one will be a little bit more complicated. He has an attack that moves someone and makes them attack. He basically gets to drop off your opponent, which is pretty cool. He has God of Mischief, which, while not being hard control, is a really nice debuff for your opponent. And then on the backside, God of Mischief is, oh my god, so good. I think he's at least a 6 on control. Because he also has the Mind Stone available. Being able to just move people off of points regardless of their size is super good. Because, let's be honest, 90% of games, you're probably going to have Loki with the Mind Stone.
Yeah, that's what I usually play him that way. And obviously, Illusions is cool, but it rarely happens, if ever.
You rarely even attack with it, let alone mesmerize.
God of Mischief is really, really strong, but is it as strong as just pulling someone off a point? No. Especially if you have an opponent that knows what you're doing exactly and actually does the math every round and realizes that stuff's expensive.
Yeah. Parker? I need numbers, guys. Numbers.
I was going to say, if I was actually thinking about how we're rating so far, kind of establishing this. If Valkyrie is an 8 on offense, I don't know if Loki makes an 8, but man, he's close in control. So at least a 7. I would be totally fine with an 8. He's not a 9.
I guess the main reason I'm considering more of a 6 than an 8 is that the Mind Stone isn't kind of included with him. It's just an option.
Yeah.
But I guess I shouldn't because we're talking about potential.
Also, I mean, one of his attacks just gives out slow, right? It's another control effect. So
you have to damage, but you do have to damage.
Oh, by the way, it's a beam, so you can hit it multiple people all with slow.
It's true. But it's a short range, so slowing people that are close to you isn't super useful.
But it is if you're trying to control them from moving around. That's just the point, right?
Yeah. Certainly better than fucking Valkyrie. Jeremy, what was your number?
You went low, he went high. I'm going to land in 7.
Don't worry about we said. What's
My
your
number? I don't. I 6. I mean, his passive, the God of Mischief, is really good, but it's not something that, again, a really good controller for me has. Like, it's just kind of obnoxious.
All right. I'm going to be the tiebreaker and go to 7. So we're going to do 7 out of 10. God of Mischief on the backside is just too good. It's probably the best innate debuff in the game that you can't really turn off because you can't even use the shush card on it. Like, it's going to be there until he's dead. You got to get him dead, and he's hard to kill, so that's going to be not easy to do. And access to the Mind Stone as well. Yeah, I think it's a 7. Honestly, Parker might even have me a little bit convinced it might be an 8.
I wasn't paying attention
so
to the
moving
backside.
on.
Yep. Go ahead. It's fine.
Moving on to roll. Everyone say it with me. Are you ready? Controller. All right, moving on.
Oh, I was gonna
you guys
say
aren't
brute,
saying
sure.
it. I feel that guess is not brute. All right. Overall rating. So basically, this is in one way to look at this rating for the overall rating is if you had to choose any person from his role, how likely out of 10 would it be to be him? Also might be like overall power scale, like pretty much just, potency of character.
I'll say a 7. I like 7.
I think he's definitely lower than Valkyrie, I think.
I would say, for me, this is me personally, he's very rarely in my list of characters that I'm reaching for on the top shelf, like Valkyrie is. I would put him more around a 6 overall, and I don't know if he deserves it. I'm just saying personally, for me, my overall rating of him is a 6, but I don't value, what's the best way to put him? He's a jinx, right? He's a hex type character. You just set him in the middle of things and he taxes your opponent, right? He taxes everything. So I'm not just a giant fan of playing taxing type characters in general. So because of that, like that kind of character I don't gravitate towards, I think I'd put him around like a 6, I think.
Says the guy that played Signar.
I swear to God, that was exactly coming up. I'm like,
Signar,
I was going to throw up in my mouth.
What do you mean? I guess.
Fuck you, Parker. That's what I mean. Haley too. You fucking piece of shit. Anyway, moving on.
Haley 2 was not. Whatever. Go ahead. Fine.
Moving on. All right.
Signar didn't have a tax. They had the controllers, but they didn't have a taxing character.
I think if it wasn't for the fact that he could take the Mind Stone, I would rate him at a
100%
4.
agree.
But because his kit combined with the Mind Stone, getting 3 power a turn, being able to move people, and debuffing them, I think brings him up to a 6. And so, Parker, didn't you say 6?
I said 6, yes.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pencil him at a 6. I think 7's a little too high because of his lack of damage. I think he's a good example of he is less than the sum of his parts because he can't do everything. He can't attack and defend himself and move people. He runs out of power too fast. And he doesn't have the hit points to stick around while doing all of it. I think that brings him down. If he had 11 or 12 hit points, he might actually go up to a 7 because he'd be that much harder to get rid of, so you'd get the effect for longer. But I think I put him at a 6.
That makes sense. And
all right.
And also, by the time you buy this down, he's a 5-point character, and for that regard, I'm like, ugh, yikes.
5-point character that's mediocre on damage is pretty rough. Okay, moving on. I think the next most obvious character in the Asgardians is Hela. Do you agree, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Speak on Hela. She's very complicated.
Hela. She is kind of complicated, but I think that's just because a lot of people don't expect her to do what she does. They expect her to be more like Loki or Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Because she's very magic-y. But really, when you break it down, she's just a melee bruiser. She likes to punch people with her sword and collect soul tokens, and that's like what she does.
Yeah, she's 100%. I was gonna say you think she'd be a cool hexy magic, but she's just she wades into the middle of things and doesn't die when she should, and yeah.
So offense. She's got a pretty average strike that does bleed on wilds. She has a mystic attack that isn't too expensive and does 6 dice. And then Rain of Hell.
And it keeps her alive.
Rain of Hell's not bad, but it's really expensive. explosive is potential for AoE damage. She does have the ability to roll extra dice on damage with the soul tokens. So she could potentially roll, 10 dice on her big attack? That's not bad. And then this character with bleed, it does not count wilds in its defense, so she has a defense debuff. I think I would put her at probably a 6 on damage because of her potential high-end damage.
Yeah, I would agree with a 6.
I like the fact that she's one of the few characters who, your opponent has a guy who's dazed. You have a guy who gets dazed, and then she can get you with it, which is pretty cool. And offensively, it applies. So 6, 7, I'll put her as a 6. She really wants to do Rain of Hell all the time. It's just expensive.
6 is agreed. Yeah. And so without a scenario that gives you more power, obviously she's pretty limited in doing that. But the soul tokens, being able to rolling 9 dice on a mystic attack against some characters is super worth. Captain America
it does blow you up pretty good.
And it gives her soul token back if she does damage. I think she's pretty solid. Not overly impressive, but pretty solid. Defense. I think this is actually kind of her place. She's 4s across the board, which I think she's the only character that has all 4s. I can't think of anyone else.
No, there's got to be other 4s.
Thor and Captain America both only have 3 on Mystic.
No, there's other all 4s. I just gotta find them.
Name the character, Parker.
I thought I saw one just the other day. I swear I was looking because I was building Web Warriors, and I was like, where do we have people with big pools of dice? I'm gonna look.
Well, I can tell you, one of the Web Warriors is definitely not have 4s.
No, not one of the. It was for Web Warriors list to take advantage of
right.
ability.
Yeah.
Continue your conversation. I'll look.
Yeah. I'm still looking. Obviously, the Army of Hell thing to come back to life at full health on the injured side. The biggest negative to her, I think, is she only has 10 hit points.
I think it's the balance, because the come back to life thing is.
Sure, exactly. She also is an Asgardian, and honestly, if you're playing Hela, you're definitely in the Asgardian faction, I believe. So Odin's Blessing's in play. She has a lot of ways to manipulate her survivability between the come back to life and the reducing damage down to 1 with Odin's Blessing. She could also use her. Is it
Goddess of Death?
What's the ability that actually brings her back? Is it? Queen of Hell is the one that brings her back to life. So she can actually use it multiple times as long as she gets enough tokens back, and she can get 2 potentially off of her own claimed soul. So if she double claims souls and dazes someone, she's back at 3 tokens again. 4s across the board. I think she's probably a 7, maybe even an 8 on survivability. But I guess 10 hit points probably not. Probably 6 or 7.
Oof.
Jeremy, what's your thought? It's really the 4s across, not having a weakness, and in fact being strong.
It is a big deal, and her ability to make herself come back to life, which she can usually do at least once. Survivability, but I've seen her nuked so quickly. 7, because she doesn't have any auto, make it better, make it easier, change dice. No. She just simply, what I see happen is she gets punched really hard, dies, uses her souls, come back, and she gets punched hard again. That can totally happen. True.
No, it definitely can, but the fact that you have to, normally when you're attacking someone and they have 4 defense dice, and you're attacking with anything other than an apex level attack, a big spender, you're not expecting them to get dazed from 1 attack. So you're probably having to attack her twice to get her dazed, even on the backside, really, and then she's just going to come back at full health. You're probably spending 2 activations or some kind of tactics card to get her dead on the backside, outside of bad luck. And that combined with Odin's Blessing, if you really want to just save Odin's Blessing, it's all right, go ahead, kill her, bring her back to life, I hit her again, Odin's Blessing, and now she's going to fill up with souls again, so then you kill her, she's going to come back again. That's basically 3 extra lives right there. I think that definitely puts
7 feels good.
Parker, who else has 4s?
No, you were correct. She's the only 4s across the board in the game. Because of that, that's really extraordinary. You could get a reroll on a 3 defense, like some characters in the game did, or you just have 4. Mm-hmm. So she has the biggest potential for any defense, single defense roll, outside of maybe some of the weird guys who can spend power to do it, but just naturally, passively, always has a max of 4 defense in anything. Gosh, that's awesome. And I didn't realize that she was 4s and she was the only one, and then she has all the cool come back to life stuff in the Asgardian faction. I think 7 is a conservative number. I would agree. I would I would not be mad if anybody wanted to call her an 8. I think that's why she is 4 points. I think that's why she's 4 points.
Without more hit points, I'm reluctant to put her at an 8. But yes, I generally agree with everything you just said. I'd say she has an interesting combination of effects because obviously if you've played Web Warriors, the infinite rerolls on defense dice is super handy and very consistent. She's very inconsistent because she has a high number, which tends to spike because it's a 3 and 8s per die. So it's not that crazy to think that you'll blank out a lot even having 4. But with that backup of I'm going to ignore the dice rolls and just go back to full health on the injured side is a good combination with the high base dice. Mm-hmm. And then Odin's Blessing on top of that is just another compounding factor. Yeah, I think we got to put her in a 7. Moving on, we have support. I can't think of anything she would do to support people.
She's a 1.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty basic 1, unless Jeremy wants to argue that having explosive on
Nope, not even I will argue it. I won't even argue it. I like her a lot.
He tried last time. Yeah. All right, so, yeah. Control, she does the bleed mechanic, which is extremely minor control.
I would call that damage.
What else?
Offense.
Yeah. Really. It's not even a debuff.
No. I would say...
She steals souls. Yeah, I can't think of anything she'd do.
Agree.
Control. Yeah, I think we're at a 1.
Yeah.
I told you she's fucking weird, dude. She's weird.
Because she's not... I know. I totally agree she's weird. And the one... And I wanted to mention this on the last podcast when we talked about putting Iron Man in our list instead of the Agent Widow. And I didn't get to touch on it. And anyone from War Machine will know the value of losing slowly. Because everyone knows that when your stuff dies super quick, it's super bad for you. You're going to lose on scenario. You're going to give up board. You're going to have a bad time. But the fact that she can lose slowly, even if she's going to lose, she's not going to lose fast. It's going to take them 3, maybe even 4 turns to get her off the board, even with maybe overwhelming force. Like, that's a powerful thing. Mm-hmm. And because you can just put her on a flank by herself, don't even really care if they send 2 people at her unless they're going to be able to physically move her. She's going to be there until I decide she's not. So roll, I think this is pretty obvious. Brute.
Yep. Agree.
Yep.
Jeremy.
She is. She's
one of the
bizarre,
weirdest in the game.
And she punches...
Technically a brute.
Yeah,
she punches just hard enough.
I totally agree.
And it's so bizarre. And play against her or play with her, both sides of the table are weird. She's just weird.
Yeah. Although, after sitting here and dissecting the card with you guys, I kind of want to play her more now, though. Now that I know what she's supposed to do. I'm like, oh, wait, I have a plan now. This is fine.
She is totally your kind of character. You love that attrition game. She is definitely that.
I do like grinding bones to make bread. Moving on, so rating. What is the overall mouthfeel?
You did it. You got mouthfeel in there, didn't you?
I did it.
Yeah.
Mouthfeel.
Oof.
Jeremy, can you rate the mouthfeel of this Woodford Reserve?
You know what? I'm going to give it a 6 because of just lack of specialty and insanely interesting. I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay.
Also
what
6.
What about Hella, though?
Yeah.
6? I think that's kind of high.
Really?
I think that's very high, actually. I think you're a victim of circumstance.
Oof.
I think she's a 4. She has some good stuff going for her, but she doesn't have an obvious role. She's kind of like a fifth wheel on a car. Where do you put it? Is it in the middle? Do you put it in the back?
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know.
I just don't know where it goes. It doesn't have an obvious role. It's not exceptional at what it does at any particular point. It completely lacks any form of support or control. It's a brute that doesn't do a massive amount of damage or survive forever. Like, I think that puts her pretty low on the list. I could even see a 3. Parker?
I was actually going to put her at a 3 or 4, for the exact reason that she's awkward turtle, right? It's just there are so many other characters in the game that have this really clear vision for. The only reason why I think she could be a 4 is that you could purposely play her knowing that your opponent is not going to know exactly what to do. There's something to be said for if you're playing in a competitive scenario where you want to play competitively, you're purposely not picking meta obvious, so that whenever you put them down and you start to execute a strategy, your opponent doesn't know what that is and gets surprised whenever they commit something going, oh, I'll just send this guy over here to deal with Hela, Queen of Hell, And they get there, and she's like, "Oh yeah," and she just gets beaten down, and she's smiling the whole time as she's slowly dying. And then you win because she never actually died, and she just stands up and walks off the board. So
if she was size 3, I would probably argue that she's a 5. But because she's so easy to manipulate off of an objective, and that's literally like her one job is to go hold an objective.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to go.
I just watched Thor Ragnarok. I have kind of a crush. Like, this is just, you guys are hurting my heart. But I think you're absolutely right, though. She's so bizarro, man. There's so many other characters that can do kind of the job. But in my wheelhouse is what the fuck is Jeremy playing this time? So that's kind of my bread. But I love that style of game. So she fits right in there for me.
Let's say hypothetically there were 100 4-point characters. Out of 100, what place would you put her on?
I don't know how to answer that. That's weird. I don't know what you mean.
It's weird. It's because that's like a percentage thing. Like, I would say she'd be in the bottom 30%.
Maybe, because, obviously damage output is a monstrous thing, and then being able to control is a huge thing. Yeah, so, okay, she's bottom.
She has less than control than Valkyrie.
I don't like Valkyrie as much as I just saw Thor Ragnarok. I told you. I'm like, God damn it. That's what I'm. Oh.
She's in the movie. All right,
but he doesn't
right.
like her.
Fine.
I'm putting her at a 3. We're moving on. Okay. The least important character in the Asgardians, Thor
Chris Hemsworth. You mean?
Just kidding, but oof, yeah,
a lot.
All right, so offense. This is going to be interesting because I think a lot of people have a misconception about his offense. So, his strike might be the best strike in the game. In fact, I would probably argue that it is. Having a throw on wilds on a strike, 6 dice. He can throw up to size 4. Obviously gains power on damage. His 4 Asgard mechanic allows him to perform a strike action, which means if they take damage, they also suffer stagger. So you're also talking about the strike potentially doing stagger in addition to throwing people. Very powerful. The problem I have with him is that's his damage. It's literally we've now reached his pinnacle of damages performing his basic attack, which I think is more of like a mental state of knowing that you can't go to 11. Right? It's like, all right, I'm trying to win a race here, and I don't have my NOS button in my car. Like, there's just press the pedal. That's how you win, and you're like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know how to deal with that.
But it is a big ass muscle car. Like, it is, yeah.
It's
a really consistent, high torque car. But it's never going to. It's not a race racer. It's never going to jump up to 300. It's not going to do that.
There's not any cornering. There's no maneuvering. There's no like extra level you can go to. Unlike Gone in 60 Seconds, where he's redlining the car and then hits the NOS button. Yeah. There's no that. Like, even though that would destroy every part of your engine, that doesn't do anything. Like, his go faster button just says press button 1 again.
I know Nicolas Cage is known for his really chill movies and the never going to 11 in any role, so that surprises me.
Never ever going to 11.
I feel like I'm actually cool with putting Thor at a I know this may sound crazy, but Thor might be a 6 or a 7. Is that crazy?
I think he has to be 7 because of the potential triple throw. Because you can throw with both strikes and then do Strongest Avenger for throw again. I think he can't be a 6.
But isn't that double dipping in offense and like control? Is that?
Well, no, because it is still damage. Like, I can throw a truck at you, and like I can kill 2 people because I can attack Hulk twice, throw him into someone twice, and then throw a truck into that same second person. And so someone's dodging 15 damage, and then I also put 12 dice into the other person.
Okay.
Like, that kind of stuff can happen, but he definitely can't be higher than 7, I think. Valkyrie definitely hits harder than Thor, I think.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think that's true. I do not think that is true. The throws, all of that, it's just so much compared to you run up with Valkyrie. It may or may not happen. Like, the Thor makes it happen almost every single time. On his strike, he gains power. I mean, most.
I totally disagree. I've had Thor walk up to like just generic 3-point defense character and do 2 damage. Like, it's so frustrating, actually.
In the game against me, that's what happened.
Yeah, it's like he has no dice mods, and so it's easy to just I attack 2 hits, they block 1. All right, take 1. That was that. Like he has no way to increase the potential. And if he ends up with 10 damage, like, all right, so for Asgard, which is basically just action economy, and then Strongest Avenger, that's it. He's got one thing he does with power, because God of Thunder will almost always do as much damage to your team as theirs.
And it's expensive.
This is the weird thing about, in terms of, like, this is one of the only characters in the game that there's no way to make him like he actually is in the comic. You know, Mjolnir is supposed to take the heads off of, like, Galactus, right? Galactus gets staggered when it gets hit by Mjolnir, so they can't make it a 12 dice attack, you know. So I think it's underwhelming what it does. I exactly hear you. I wish it would have been something to make it more consistent in damage, even if they didn't make it roll more dice.
So what? I was just saying, we're talking. So what would the average damage be then? Like, I'm not very good at throwing that math together really quickly, but
so it's a 4.5 in 8 roughly. I can pull up the calculator. Sorry, I drank too much at this point.
All I know is, yeah.
Why can't I think right now? That's what I need to do.
Because now I'm curious.
He's averaging 3.375 damage per strike. That's his average. Now, obviously, you can chain crits and you can get a wild for a throw, but the throw on that character is only going to do 1 damage. So he's got a 1 in 8 on each die to trigger the wild, which is going to do an extra damage. But you also have to be careful, because if you throw him out of melee range, then you can't hit him again. Unless you, for Asgard.
So to me, when I look at him and what I usually do with him is you get, the couple attacks and then you throw some shit at somebody, right? And so that would equal, they got to dodge it. So an extra 2 if you huck a truck at them or whatever and they don't defend it well. So maybe.
So the problem is, like we said, there's a 3 in 8 chance of defending per die. Almost every character in the game has a 3 physical defense. At least. And so most characters can defend average 1 per defense roll, maybe 2 on the good defense characters. So he's doing somewhere between 2.3 and 1.3 per attack. And it's just like, that's not overly impressive, but obviously the whole way that people get dazed in this game is the dice swings. Like, you'll have a lot of blank outs on defense. You'll have spikes on offense where you do 5 or 6 or maybe even 7 hits. Plus the throw. You're going to do damage. But it's like, considering 95% of the characters in the game have 5 dice on their basic attack, and he can only do 6 total dice, it's just a little unimpressive.
I just feel like...
And I kind of wish...
Ahead.
How about this? If you gave Thor Warrior of Legend off of Valkyrie's card, in addition to what he has, his damage easily goes up to an 8. Maybe even a 9. Like, being able to do that, even though he's still capped at 6 dice, very powerful. But the fact that he can only roll 6 dice and he has no mods is very punishing to dice chance, because it's not an overwhelming amount of dice and he doesn't have any way to make it consistent. He basically is just fishing for throws.
Yeah, but he has the built-in charge mechanic, basically, which means he can go get you and get both attacks, which mostly you can't.
Yeah.
So you get both attacks and you probably get your throw. 8's going to daze just about anything in the game. If it does, I mean, how much damage are we looking for here? Well, you were saying the offensive output should be the 6 plus 2 from the throwing something. I mean, you've got 8 damage on a character right there, just 8.
But they also get to
defend. Oh, well, that's what I was asking about. Like, so it's not 8; it's 4. Okay.
Right. So his average results is 3.37. The average defense is a little bit more than 1, and so you're doing about 2.5 damage per swing. So it's possible that he can daze people with his 2 attacks, but it's not like Corvus Glaive or Valkyrie. Like having 10 power on Thor isn't actually that scary.
He can't.
Because what is he going to do? Yeah, he's already going to do his throw, and probably for Asgard anyway, because he's getting 2 a turn, so he's probably going to have enough for Asgard. And between his 2 strikes, he'll have enough power left over to throw you. So he's doing good damage. His damage is noticeably above average, but it doesn't go into that upper echelon that a lot of the hard-hitting characters do. And so, we just talked about this for a long time, and I think we're all at 7.
7's fine.
But I just wanted to clarify my point. I like Thor as a character. Yeah, 7. Parker, you agree with 7, or did you want to go with 4?
I think 7 is fine, mostly because he rolls. I'm going to do a 7 because he rolls 6 dice, like, period. 6 dice is like an upper echelon thing. I think if you here'll be a Parker rule of thumb for rating: if you have 6 dice on attack, you automatically at least get a 6. The end. I think it's true. I think it's 100% true. So I would
6
put
dice on a free attack is very rare.
Yes,
but like
that's what I meant.
There's a lot of characters
6 attacks,
like
6 attacks on a free dice.
Rocket costs 2 points and has a 7 die attack that costs less than 6. Like we live in the same world, right? This is a thing. Like that's my frustration. I wish he had like Giant Slayer or something, like some big attack that even if it costs like 8, some way to do like alpha level damage instead of just very average, very above average. I mean, anyway, moving on. Defensive, he has 4/4/3, having 4s against the important damage types. Very nice. Not having any other defensive abilities, not so nice. Having 14 hit points, also very nice.
14 hit points is a lot of work.
14 is a lot of hit points. Also having good defensive stats. 2 4s is really big. I think a 6 probably is where I'm going. The 14 hit points is a lot. Also, potentially, he can heal himself every turn. He can also remove debuffs from himself, like Stagger. He can remove, Incinerate, so he gets his defense dice back. And he doesn't even have to activate to get the healing. And so, I think probably a 6 is pretty safe here. Parker, what do you think?
I think 6 is a little generous because all he's got, in my opinion, really all he's got is a lot of health. But he does have a lot of health, and more health does equate to some other cool abilities, right? Like it really, I think it does. There's not that many. I don't know of any abilities in the game that work better on a character because they have more health. So because having health is only a benefit that kind of counts, like extra dice or rerolls. It's the most consistent. Like having 8 health is better than having 6 health because it means that you technically rolled 2 dodges, magically. Like it just happens, right?
The odds of being taken out by 1 attack is very low, which means you're going to defend more often, which is going to compound the amount of attack dice it takes to kill you. I get what you're saying, even if other people don't. Is that it's beyond that threshold that they can easily get you with a single attack, even if it's a very good attack. Like 8 hit points is so much to chew through, even in an entire activation. Mm-hmm. It's outside of the realm of what people expect to do.
Right. It takes in the curve of the game, the way that the amount of attack dice and defense dice are in the game, in the curve, having 8 health means it means a little bit more than getting 2 successful defense die rolls. It means a little bit more than that, actually. I think so. Because of that, I think he could rate a 6, but that's really it. It is a really, really good thing, but I think that's it. So getting him more than a 6 is a stretch. I would be okay with him being a 5.
I think he's noticeably above 5. I would say a 4/4/3 with just 10 hit points would be a 5. Okay. Having a lot of defense dice is pretty rare. There's not a lot of variance on defense dice. It pretty much goes from 2 to 6, and 2 and 6 are extremely rare. 5 is
Magneto.
Also very rare.
I got some Master of Magnetism stuck in my throat.
No, the Maw is also Mystic 6. But it's 2. There's 2 6 dice defenses in the game that I'm aware of. And 5s, I don't even know if there is a 5. Is there?
I don't think there's a 5. No.
I don't even know that there is one. So it's basically 3 to 4 is basically the range of average characters. Having 4s on both of the important ones, not having a weakness. Because if he was Mystic 2, I think 5 would be fair. I think he's at least a 6.
Okay.
Jeremy?
I can live with a 6 for all the reason you guys said. That's fine.
Yeah, if he didn't have 14 hit points, obviously different conversation, but it's so hard to get him down. Because even 6 on the front, it's hard to one-shot him. It's really hard to one-shot. So
I would actually...
You're probably spending...
One more reason why there's 6, and I'm willing to lean to 6, is that he has 8 on the backside also. So I think it's actually something to be said about like the tempo for him. Is that yes, he goes down a little bit earlier on the front side than he does on the backside, but when he starts his backside, he's got 8 power. He's got 8 health. He's got a lot of power usually right then, and that's when he starts doing the business. Which is also, from a comic book lover's point of view, that's so Thor. Like Thor comes in, have at thee, but then when you hit him, then he stands back up, and you're like, oh shit, you pissed off Thor, and and then you get the hammer. I really like that. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's
like when you're playing video games, you're leaning back all relaxed, and you're losing, and you're like, wait a second. You like lean forward in your chair and like actually start playing the game. You're like, all right, I see it. You're gonna piss me off. I guess so. We're just gonna fucking troush you.
Yeah.
Like, all right. 6 on defense. Support. Being that he's a leader, he can't be support 1. That being said, his leadership ability is really not that great. It's okay. 3. I could be talked down to a 2.
I would give him, if we count leadership abilities for a character as like important, that would only work if they have that, if you're running that faction with him. And like you said,
I think it's important because it is adding support to your list and its potential, because you don't have to play faction leaders in their faction, and there's a lot of faction leaders in multiple factions. So
I also the Prince of Asgard seems weak until you go up against like a list that's counting on conditions or wants conditions to happen, and then it's a great foil. It's one of those kind of like back pocket powers. It's not one that you're counting on to run your strategy. It's just really nice when you're about to, or like when you're like, oh man, I really do need 1 more health. 1 more health would be really nice. Well, there you go.
A quick little story from my playtest games. I didn't realize this because I don't normally play Asgard, but if you play the cubes mission, it's incredible because you just heal the damage from the cube every turn. So like you have Rocket Raccoon on like Gamma Wave and cubes, and he just picks up a cube and goes and stands on a point, and you're like, he's gonna die. He's like, no, he's not. He's just gonna heal every turn, and you're like, oh no, like he's actually going to survive the entire game with cubes, and so you're just like, fuck, this is annoying.
And that's what I mean
Parker,
with that ability. What?
Yeah. Parker, what's your number?
I would actually give him, in my personal opinion, I like the Asgardian ability. I would see a 3 with it. Actually, I see a 3 for him because if we count leadership abilities, he's a 3. I think.
No, I mean you have to. I mean, how else would you quantify it?
Yeah, we'd have to either count them or just never count leadership abilities on cards ever. So if we I
so
say
we obviously have to. Yeah, that's part of the Jeremy?
Then I say he's a 3 because I think a leadership ability is minimally a 3. Minimally, I think so. 3.
I don't know about that as a hard rule, but yeah, I think it's important. Jeremy, what is your score?
Because of leadership ability, being able to heal everybody, at least 1 every single turn. I mean, that's led to shenanigans, and it's pretty strong actually. I could go a 4 I just think it's pretty damn good after a couple turns when you've done that multiple turns. As when it comes to support, what better support is there than just keep your dudes alive? That's a pretty big deal.
Also, every Asgardian that's actually an Asgardian always gets an extra power, so it's kind of like they have.
Yeah,
it's nearly regeneration, right?
Yeah, if you're playing Asgardians to get the ability, you have at least 3 Asgardians effectively. So.
Right, it's only one person per turn becomes Sabretooth, but 1 person per turn is Sabretooth.
But it's better than that because you don't have to heal the person that's activating.
Right.
So you can like activate Thor, go in, hit people. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I'll stagger Thor. That way I don't have to worry about him next turn. You're like, okay, Rocket Raccoon activates. Thor shakes stagger. And you're like, oh, shit. Like, and so it's just very good. Anyway, moving on to control. I put down a 3 for the record. I think it's strong, but he doesn't have any other support abilities. So moving on to control, it's just his throws. He has an action throw for 3, and he has his wild strike throw. Both are size 4 or less, throw short. Oh no, Strongest Avengers throw medium.
Yeah, size 4 throw medium, that's big.
Yeah. And it's throw anywhere, not like away or anything. I think that's at least a 3. Being able to throw size 4 is pretty important. It makes people like Black Dwarf not like safe on points. Jeremy?
Being able to grab someone and just huck them is, to me, very strong. I'll put that as a 5. Like, I think that's a legit. You have to worry about that, and they can't stay on objectives because you're just going to hug them off and then take the objective. So you have to deal with that. I like that.
We do also need to address his hammer throw applies to shock condition, which is deceptively good. It's a range 5 attack that does shock automatically, which is reduce your attack dice by 1. And so if he's like, if you're at the end of a game and you're both standing on points and you're trying to blast the other guy off the point, not only is he going to take out the opponent more quickly, probably because he's throwing 5 dice at them, but he's also applying the shock condition, so they're debuffed shooting back at him.
Also, range 5 is a hell of a long way away.
It is a really long way, yeah. It's basically from any point to any close point. It's not like across from corner to corner, but if you're like playing Infinity Formula, you can definitely shoot back and forth.
I actually agree with Jeremy on this one, because Strongest Avenger is actually a reason to take Thor almost. Like, it's that good.
Oh, sure. Like, that's definitely his most defining aspect, is that he can move size 4.
So and because of that, I think that deserves a 5. Like, and then you also see some other things there. So.
Okay, I'm just gonna, for the record, I'm putting 4 on my vote, but you guys outruled me to a 5. I think, but I mean, he has control. It's just, I think 5 is a little strong, but I do respect the size 4 throwing. That's definitely why
you're outvoted, so it doesn't fucking matter. You're
moving
outvoted.
on. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just putting it down for the record that I'm too stingy to give him a 5, and I like Thor. Roll. This is the one that I think everyone initially knew, and then quickly realized they didn't know. So, what is he? I would like to start the bidding with Blaster, because he has a 5 damage, range 5 attack that
it costs 1
the
power.
correct answer is Thor is a Paragon, which is like the amalgamation of everything. And because he has some support, he has some damage, he has survivability, he has control, he has range, like he does everything. Because he's a god, like he's supposed to do everything. And so the question is, what is his role? What is he supposed to do?
I think I
don't think it's fair to say he's a brute.
I think it is. I think he's a brute.
You think so? You think he's supposed to go in and survive?
Yeah. I really think he does. I don't think he's.
I would say
I don't think he does enough melee damage. I don't think he's like a scrapper. Yes, he has control, but he's not a controller. I just think I do agree with you. There are a couple of characters in this game that they did a really good job of representing, like even though Mjolnir is not perfect, because you can't actually make Mjolnir in this game without breaking it. But with Mjolnir aside, like Thor in this game feels like Thor in the comic books, which is, he's, like you said, a god. One of my favorite moments in a comic book ever is Spider-Man is on the Avengers, and Thor, when Spider-Man joined, Thor wasn't a member. He was dead for a while, and he shows back up, and all of a sudden Apocalypse shows up out of nowhere from an alternate dimension, and Spider-Man goes, "Oh no!" And then Thor just flies and just clocks him with Mjolnir, and Apocalypse just flies away. and then Hawkeye looks over at the Spider-Man and realizing the fight's already over, and he goes, "Yeah, you've never been on the Avengers with Thor, have you?" It's just like fights end fast when Thor's around.
Really like levels mountains level power,
right?
And like Apocalypse is like, I can change my body's metabolism. like, okay, good job, buddy.
Yeah, so like when that kind of stuff, and that's what Thor. That's why Thor is hard to place anything, because he's Superman-esque, right?
Yeah, I get that you can't have actual Thor in the game,
right?
Like that obviously would be too much. Just like having actual Magneto in the game would be too much,
right? But so it's true. Yeah, actual Magneto would be.
I'm still leaning heavily on the Scrapper side.
Really?
Because if you look at his card and tell me that if you had to pick one thing this guy is supposed to do, was designed to do, his purpose, can you say it's being a tank? I do get he's really survivable, but can you say his number one priority is staying alive?
No, he has charge built in his card. I mean,
yeah, okay.
I think he has to be a scrapper.
Oh yeah, okay, go for it. I didn't like it because we talked about how his melee is he doesn't have those like insane melee numbers like I like to see with scrappers. But you are right, he doesn't fit anything else, and I like Jeremy's point about him having charge. So yeah, the scrapper.
I mean, the correct answer is a scrapper, brute, controller, defender. That's the correct answer. But
with a smack
and then blaster after that,
smack,
and then maybe skirmisher, a little bit of skirmisher because he's got charge.
The mouthfeel on this one is just weird.
There's no correct answer, but I think it has to be Scrapper because I think if you had to sort it in order, he's supposed to hurt people. He's supposed to go in and beat people up.
You ever been hit by a truck thrown at you by Thor? That hurts. That's gotta hurt.
Have you ever been hit with a truck holding a pair of scissors? That's like what this character
I was going
feels
to say, if Thor hit you with a truck, consider yourself lucky that he didn't hit you with any of the other things he has.
If it was rocks,
yeah.
If it was rock, paper, scissors, Thor would somehow beat all three simultaneously and also lose to all three simultaneously.
Yeah. Rock, paper, scissors, Thor. Yeah. I like that.
All right, I'm putting Scrapper. So what is our overall mouthfeel on Thor, Prince of Asgard, Thor, Odin's son?
I would actually say, and this is maybe you guys won't like this, but I actually really like him at the same level as Loki. I don't know if I reach for him every time I play for the Avengers. I don't know. I automatically do for Asgard because he has a leadership ability, but I don't know how often I go Asgard. So me personally, I actually like him at a 6. And he is a Paragon type character, and he's really good. But also, we're going to talk about other 5-point guys later, and I do not think he stack up to some of the other 5-point characters in this game. I don't think he approaches that. I would be okay. I will concede to a 7, but I would put him at a 6.
Jeremy, I'm worried that you guys are going to go in a different direction than me.
No, when it comes to, so do I reach and grab him, and why do I grab him? Why do I use him? Like, how does he kind of fit? God, like I'd put him like at a 5. If you compare him to, we just talked about Magneto, who is ridiculous. Doctor Strange, ridiculous. These are leaders.
We
right?
literally know like 3 things about Magneto, and
he's already ridiculous. So power levels and things. Like Thor has a spot, sure, he's awesome, but he's also 5 freaking points. Like,
that's kind of where I'm at. I'm leaning pretty heavy towards a 5. Pulling teeth, I might go up to a 6. I like Thor a lot.
I want you to know, guys.
Don't know.
I was actually leaning really high because I thought you guys were big Thor fans. So absolutely put him at a 5 because to me he doesn't even scratch coattails of a certain doctor I know. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, you say that, but like, look at Ghost Rider. How does Ghost Rider do anything compared to Doctor Strange? They came out at the same time.
Yeah.
They're in the same faction.
Yeah.
Like, anyway. I think we're gonna go with 5 on Thor. It's just too easy to find good scrappers for less than 5 points. Even with the amount of the thing that's so weird about him though is because he's not just a scrapper for 5 points. He does so much, but I think it's a lot like Hela, where it's like he's got too many irons in the fire and needs to do one thing that can like do something because he's so expensive. You can't fill in all the other weaknesses in your list. Like, he is such a big part.
I was actually... Go ahead.
He's just such a big part of your list that if you try and throw other well-rounded characters in, which is kind of what the Asgardians try and do, is like multiple well-rounded characters, you're just outnumbered by so much that it's hard to stay on scenario. And so I feel it's like the opposite of the Black Order. Like, the Black Order have just decided that murdering is good, and they want to do that. And then the Asgardians are just kind of like the opposite, where it's like, we want to do everything, and they haven't given up on anything.
Thor has that weird, like, for a new player, he's almost my go-to for any new player. Of like, you want to see some cool shit? You want to see some cool shit that's very easy? You just give him Thor. Charge up, punch some shit, throw that truck at someone's face. Then beyond that, you know?
There's no question that he is fun and powerful. It's just, God, it's a lot of resources.
I feel like one of a good analogy is everyone plays X-Wing miniatures games. He's like a Millennium Falcon, right? He's just like, he doesn't do anything super good, but he does everything very good, and he doesn't have one defined role. So if you put him on the board, like, oh, he went to go take that objective, well, he'll go do something there. Oh, he's going to go to that side of the board. Oh, well, he did something there too. Oh, he's going up against that kind of enemy. You're like, okay, well, he'll do something. Well, he's going up against that kind of enemy. You're like, oh, well, he'll do something. Like, he's very much a generic.
I would actually say he's more of a TIE defender. Like,
yeah, I guess.
Because the Millennium Falcon isn't like defensive; it just is a brick. Like it just sits there. I don't know.
He is a little bit
though.
more active. Thor is a little bit more active than I guess that.
Yeah,
but
he does. It's the over-designed piece of junk, right? Like, he's not a piece of junk, but like we've spent so much to make sure that there's zero weakness that we didn't ever stop to think about what the purpose is.
Yeah.
And like I said, it sounds like I'm coming down on him. I actually really like the model. I play with him all the time. I mean, we built our entire list around this character. Like clearly, we all.
What do you
like
need
him.
to win the
It's
game?
just,
I mean, and he
for
is
5 points. Yeah, I don't know that he accomplishes victory at any point.
But he doesn't. He loses.
He
can lose slow.
I will say he's an enabler, but not as slow as Hela though, because like Hela can guaranteed stay alive. Like I've had Thor like randomly die multiple times in the last 2 weeks. Like, oh, you're attacking me with what is that? That's a like a Star Lord. Cool. It's
Did you just shoot me with Black Widow's gun and I died?
Yeah. Oh my God! I have to tell you, full health Captain Marvel with like 6 power. I activated before her. Black Widow just headshot her to death. And took three objective tokens from her. I felt so bad. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. Because I was just going to pistol shoot. Because you can't strike her because she's energy resistant. And so I was like, yeah, I'll just pistols and I'll move over to this objective. And it did 5 damage with the opening pistol salvo. And I'm like, I'm so sorry.
That was
like
Parker's journeyman warcaster.
Moving on. That finishes our...
Yep.
Yeah. This finishes our Asgardian rating system. Hopefully we'll be a little bit more efficient with this next time. But I think we did a pretty good job. We're still feeling out the positions, but pretty happy with what we ended up with. I'm excited to move on to other characters.
Establishing a baseline is always the hardest part when you're doing any of this kind of rating stuff. Because as soon as we had Brunhilde and Loki are like, okay, well, this is what defines an 8, this is what defines a 5 and a 2. I was able to start. All the other ones became much faster because I was like, okay, let's be comparative.
Definitely. I think we're going to be a lot more efficient in the future. I'm excited. I think this is good. Parker, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, I got something on the Comic Corner from in honor of our new Wolverine coming out that we're really excited about. If you have love Wolverine like Jeremy does, if you've never checked out for a while, Mark Millar, who is sometimes called Mark Millar, is super famous comic book writer. Most of his stuff has become a movie, and a lot of them are really strong. John Romita Jr. is just an amazing penciler who does this really distinctive art style. They got together and they wrote for Wolverine Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was a title in the looks like the early 2000s, like 2006. And if you don't ever touch any of this stuff, you should find Wolverine Enemy of the State. There's Volume 1 and Volume 2 coming graphic novels. But Wolverine Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., the miniseries called Enemy of the State, is some of the best comic books I've ever read, and by far the best Wolverine story ever. It follows Wolverine. He gets brainwashed by the Hand ninjas, because the Hand, Hydra, and AIM all get conglomerated underneath one bad guy who is just the most terrifying bad guy ever in the Marvel Universe, in my personal opinion. He's just so cool. It's the Gorgon, who is kind of a B-listed mutant villain from the X-Men. And Mark Millar just writes him as, well, what do you think would happen if a perfect genius was also had the perfect body and was trained by Hand ninjas and was a mutant that could turn anybody to stone? You're like, okay, well, that sounds absolutely terrifying, and it is. So
one of those things seems way more important than the other things.
Yeah, right. And so so Wolverine gets brainwashed in Volume 1, and the story is about tracking him down and trying to rid him of his brainwash. And then Volume 2 is basically it's one of my favorite things. It's basically Wolverine is John Wick.
Oh God.
And he gets woke, and he gets unbrainwashed to find out that the Hand and this super organization is responsible for the death of this little boy who's a close friend of his. And basically he goes all John Wick on, get this, the whole Hand all of them, all the ninjas. He literally takes on all the ninjas. All of AIM and all of Hydra himself. And like that's like what he does. There's this wonderful moment in the comics where he's talking to some S.H.I.E.L.D. agents as he's getting ready to head out because he's affiliated with S.H.I.E.L.D. at this point. And they're just like, do you know how many of them there are? He goes, thousands. He's like, do you know that's like impossible to beat him? He goes, well, not if I don't start now. It's just like, it is some of the best writing, and some of the coolest Wolverine ever. The best I am at what I do, that line is personified in this Enemy of the State. So if you've never read a Wolverine comic and you want to know like a writer and an artist just making something genius and gorgeous, try Wolverine Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Enemy of the State Volume 1 and 2. And if you do it, you will buy yourself a Wolverine figure. You will not be able to not buy a Wolverine if you read this comic. It's so good.
Cool. I'm sold.
I thought the ninja organization was called the Foot.
That's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
No, I think it's
also
just all
also a
ninjas are
comic
called the Foot.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure it's the
Brandon's right. It is. That's I'm certain of it.
Foot. When we were playing the L5R role-playing game with me and some friends, Matthew kept saying that he was going to join the Foot when he was talking about the Shinobi.
Oh, God.
It's just like, and everybody's like, what? He's like, yeah, the Foot. He's like, what are you talking about? Nobody got it.
Oh,
anyway.
I found the line. Wolverine says, how many people are active in the hand, Doc? This is the doctor to help him rehabilitate his mind. And he says, how many people are in Hydra and the hand? He goes, last estimate, I saw 1,800 people in the hand and 49,000 Hydra agent. And he goes, what about that mutant cult, the Dawn of White Light creeps? He says, I don't know, 500, 600 at the most. He goes, so that's 52,000 tops, right? He goes, yeah, what about that? So what? What are you going to do, Wolverine? Head out there and kill them all single-handedly? And there's this great full panel where he turns around and he's grinning from ear to ear and he says, bingo. That's it. I'm going to go kill all 52,000. But I just wanted to be sure it was 52,000 before I went out and did it.
There you go.
Nice. Okay, well that wraps up Comic Corner. Thank God we didn't have to sit through another fucking Cyclops ramble. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for us today. This has been Brandon.
Parker. It's Parker.
Later.
Thank you for listening to The Secret Wars.
I really my favorite thing for Deadpool that I really want is I really want him to have
Oh my
leadership
God.
X-Force. I really want him to have leadership X-Force.
They need to have a tactics card with just the guy, the white guy with mustache.
What is his name?
Peter.
Shoot.
Yeah, Peter.
It's Peter.
Yeah. Oh, I really hope they put Shatterstar in this game. And they really need his pose to be the pose he's using as he's descending from the helicopter. For some reason, he's got like the pointed toe pose, which is the same, which is the way he jumped out of every single thing in every comic.
The pointy feet and fists. Angry fists, and shitloads of pockets.
Yeah.
I feel like they should just release Vanisher as a third member. The second character in the Deadpool box is Vanisher, and it's just Deadpool comes with 2 bases.
He comes with 2 bases. A tactics card is just 1 damage to any target. That's all it does. Just 1 damage.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that they did Vanisher like that. I'm sure they did it because the actual Vanisher would be too difficult to do in a movie, and it wouldn't make any sense. Because the actual one from the comic books is he's a teleporter. And by the way, he has the dumbest real name in all of the Marvel Universe. He's a teleporter. His name is Tellison Porter. And the first time I read his full name, I went, no. Like that is way too on the nose. That's so it's like naming a goat Billy. It's just the worst.
Hey, my D&D character named his pet goat Billy.
Of course he did. And that's fun. That's a gag, right? You don't do it when you're being paid money to think of people and like create a universe.
Did you say you posted something up about the news? Did you create that?
He was supposed to be doing it, but all he's written down is the X-Men stuff.
Well, that's the only thing we haven't talked about.
No, but like the band you do have band restricted here.
Yeah, do you want
I
me
feel
to
like
actually?
There's more stuff we need to talk about though.
I can actually put that on there if we don't know which. I can put the band restricted cards.
Why Toad? No one wants to talk about Toad. Get that off there.
It's news.
Get that off there.
It's something.
Tongue.
It shall be mentioned.
And thus it shall.
Oh, Brandon, by the way, we can talk about this in the podcast later, but as soon as I saw Toad, I was like, oh man, Brandon's going to hate that Toad exists, but he's going to play him in every list. I know he is.
Why?
I just have this feeling. I have this feeling that you're going to be like, Toad's the best. You guys are going to love Toad. Watch what Toad does.
No, I fucking hate him.
I'm sure you're going to play Toad all the time. Because I think he's going to be a 2-point character, and you're going to drop him in every list because you love 2-point toppers, and he's going to be a little cherry on top of every Mutant Brotherhood list you make. I have this feeling.
Did they say he's 2 points?
No, but I'm sure he will be.
He'll be 2. Good lord. What the fuck else could he do? He's like, I've got a big tongue, I'll pull you somewhere. Done.
I think.
So I think he's competing for worst name in MCP with Mortimer Toynbee. What the fuck? That's not a real name.
Oh,
the teleporter name was way better than that.
His name is Teleporter.
What? I want to buy like a cat or a dog just so I can name them with one of these awesome fucking names.
Don't do that. And
what if we just mash them together and like Bullseye's name was Mortimer Toynbee Poindexter? What if that was a human being's name? I think they would just die instantly.
I don't think they could survive. I think they purposely named nerdy type names for the characters you're supposed to not like, which I wonder if that's on purpose. I wonder if that's
it's 100% on purpose.
Like, look at these guys. This is their motivation for being bad guys. They were all picked on when they were children or something. I don't know.
I think we should get rid of the theme.
I just can't. You're already upset by it.
I mean, it's fine, but I don't think it needs to be a column or a rating. Because we can just talk about that while we're doing the overall rating and just comment about how it's influencing. Because, like, the better than the sum of its parts concept, like, that's basically the theme, right? Like, how on point are they? How fun are they to play with? How well do they fit into lists? Like, that's basically going to determine the rating. So I feel like we're just doubling down on that, and I don't think we need to. If we were just doing rating is the average of the other numbers, then I think theme would be important. But I think we're just not going to do that, and rating's going to be an opinion. Because, for example, Captain America is going to be high defense, medium support, and bad at everything else, but he's still going to be like a high-rated character. And part of that is because he fits his role really well. He's very thematic. He fits like into lists. He has a great faction ability. So, I mean, I think
fun rating. If I can't rate him a 0 in fun rating, I'm not sure that I want to even participate. Fun rating 0. They missed the mark on that motherfucker. He didn't go to hell.
Yeah, I'm going to get rid of the theme column.
Hate him. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
I think it's a good idea, but I think it's just already covered by the rating category the more I think about it.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so are we good with the offense, defense, support, control categories? Do we think we need to add one or change one?
I got off that.
You should probably have all these open because we're going to be referencing them.
I got them open. I'm having to fuck with this new computer. Like, click around. Like, Windows 10 is still new to me. I'm like, where's that at? Offense, defense. Okay, so, okay. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah. You either move people or you don't, or have a way to move people. There's your control. You got support. What do you do for others?
Type of
defense,
like
offense, obvious. What is class? What is that?
City Heroes. Yeah. I actually originally they were literally all just names of classes in City
Keep that City of Heroes shit
and then
off
I had to change a couple.
I'm sure they fucking were.
Everybody likes City Heroes.
I'm like, God damn it! Don't bring that shit to the party.
That was the point. It's not a reference if you don't catch it.
Don't think I didn't catch it.
So are we good with Blaster, Controller, Brute, Scrapper, Skirmisher, Defender?
So
speaking of nostalgia and bringing back old stuff, did you guys see the announcement today?
Yeah.
About
Dexter season 10.
no,
Yes,
really,
Dexter's coming back.
I love that show so much, but they just they
well,
just,
the best
Are you
part is they
serious?
can't ruin it because the last season was already god awful.
yeah. I told my brother one day what they did to that show is they stuck a fork in the show and then they just spun it like spaghetti.
Well, the original. Good.
So tell me it's going to be just like Superman, where he was on a boat crab fishing, and he figured out in his head some sort of like vibration in the world that needs more killing. So then he turns the boat around.
He's in
Because
like
we
some
know how
fishing
the
boat
other
somewhere.
season
Like,
ended.
he's not
He
dead,
turns the boat
so
around, and then
it was
the
just
whole
like he
season's about him
relocates to get away
making
from
right with the killing.
pressure. Although, like, obviously that whole season was just fucked. It was just so fucked. Yeah. But the original writer left after the fourth season, which is why the fourth season was the best.
Like Rambo.
And then, like, that was supposed to be the
Like
show
John Rambo.
finale. And then the people that
Great.
were working on the show took over writing responsibilities and just kept going. Which is why it just took a hard nosedive after season 4.
Well, and the books, they lost material as well.
I
mean,
mean,
they jumped away
they've
from
already
the books
ruined
pretty
it,
hard.
so you can't unruin it to re-ruin it.
I don't know, man.
Like, the only
sure,
thing they
let's
could do
just
is
do
have
it,
an
whatever,
amazing, like, 9th season, and then,
I'll
like,
watch it.
fuck off season 10 again. Like, that's the worst they could do. Because if season 10, like, 9 is bad, we're just like, oh, well, it was still bad. Like,
the announcement
big
I
deal.
care about is Patton Oswalt MODOK show. That
I was pretty excited about that. The
love
animation looks
everything.
really bad from what I've seen, but that might have just been, like, a test footage.
I don't care. I love
Because it's like,
I
it's
love-
not
I love
animated,
Patton
it's like
Oswalt.
3D modeling, and it looked really ugly.
I love
my God.
Patton Oswalt so much.
You don't give a
That
fuck.
dude is really
I don't
funny.
care.
You know someone's funny when you have very differing views about everything than a person, but you still think they're fucking hilarious.
I love. I also love his like nerd jokes. He does a really, really good job with highbrow nerd jokes. I love them. They're so good. Yeah.
Oh, I've only seen a couple.
Every once in a while I'll be
episodes
watching
for Reno
Reno
911,
911, and I always forget that he's
Zach-
kind of
Zach
in it from time to
Galifianakis
time.
is
And it's
in it
all
also
such a pleasure, isn't it?
once in a while.
Like, you're like, oh
I
my
remember Patton Oswalt from Parks and Rec. He's in that for like 2 episodes.
Oh God, his original Star Wars screenplay. Did you know his original Star Wars screenplay was entirely ad-libbed there on the
He
spot?
just made it up
Yeah.
at the stand.
And
That's funny.
also they used clips of it, but he ranted for like a full half hour.
I
Like
bet he did.
they only took certain parts of it. They just let him go, and he just didn't stop. But that
The
is
problem
why
is, like,
it's so good.
there's
That's-
not
it's so
funny, not interesting, not socially accepted Patton Oswalts everywhere, and like they'll
Uh-huh.
come in and
Oh
like
my God.
there was this guy at 31st Century back in the day, the old game store that closed for people that don't know, and he was talking about, dude, can you imagine how cool it would be if Doctor Who used his TARDIS to travel to the Star Wars universe? And it was just like that was the most like sane thing he said for the next hour and a half.
Oh,
And it
man.
was just like way off the rails. And they got to like he has to go save Boba Fett because of course. And then he then goes to the Star Trek universe, takes over the Enterprise from Kirk because he's that badass. And I was like, what is happening? Like, is this real life? Like,
but that
this
is
person
but
thinks
Patton
any
Oswalt-
of this makes any sense?
yeah. But Patton Oswalt's like nerd version of that
Yeah.
is entirely ironic. It's
Yeah,
entirely,
because those people do exist.
Yeah.
And almost everyone that's been at a game store for the majority of their adult life has met someone like that. Where there's like, this is the way. You're like, oh my God.
Mhm.
all right. Let's rock. It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, we need to focus. So, are we good with the roles,
Mhm.
Jeremy? Well, I want you to look at them and tell me if you feel like there's something missing. Like, if you can think of a character that doesn't fit into those 6, then we need to know right now.
We can give it a try.
It's
Sounds good to me.
It's in
It's
the
podcast topics, third line, character roles.
Where are they at for the roles?
Are you there?
I heard you say them, then I blacked out.
It appears that Jeremy is anonymous gopher, and
Because I heard you say
is
them.
anonymous sheep.
And
Yeah,
let me see.
No, it's the third line up here.
And then
Yeah. So Scrapper's like
Okay.
Wolverine. He's someone
Okay.
that is maybe tough.
Blaster,
but
which
is
is a shooty guy.
damage-oriented instead of
Controller,
survivability.
we know what that is. Brood
It's like
is your
Black
tank.
Dwarf would be a Brood.
But what's the difference between a
Wolverine
Brood and
would
a
be
Scrapper? What the fuck's that? Oh,
Yeah, we'll talk
Melee.
about them. Skirmisher is just someone who's super mobile. Like
So,
Black Widow is. a
are you going to
skirmisher.
define
Her
these,
primary focus
like,
is,
on air kind of deal?
Is board,
Okay.
Like
So that
being able
helps.
to be mobile,
Skirmish. What's the
doing a
difference between
little
Scrapper
bit
and
of damage,
Skirmisher?
but mostly being able to be very mobile, very scenario oriented, and not really focused on dealing damage. Yeah. Like, I would actually say Zemo is more of a skirmisher than a scrapper, because he's not really focused on dealing a lot of damage. He's more of a, like, utility type of melee
Just a
character.
tire-upper kind of thing.
Yeah, Black Widow is the perfect example of a skirmisher. And then Defender is someone kind of like Shuri, where it's more like, I mainly just
Well,
support
Black Widow
other
would be
people,
ideal, right?
and
She's the perfect
or, like,
skirmisher.
you could even put Captain America in the Defender role.
Okay, that's fine. That makes
Because
sense.
his goal
I'm
is
good.
to protect the team. Yeah, I'm gonna move this now down to a. Also adjust my. Okay, let's see if you guys blow my ears out.
If when you're building a list and don't have offensive,
Blow.
I get it. I get it.
Blow.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm gonna go down here, and then I'm going to define these.
do it.
I heard a funny joke on the internet. Somebody was thinking about the last Star Wars movie, and they said, "Wait a minute. So Palpatine had sex," and then the person goes, "Ew." And the first person goes, "He definitely says do it. He definitely said do it." It's like, ah,
Do you want to do it?
Oh,
do it.
no.
And then somebody else pointed out, and they go, "Did Palpatine get hit by lightning again?" They're like, "Yeah, you'd think he would know. By his own lightning, you'd think he would, like the last time he was left horribly disfigured, you'd think he would know, like, to turn that shit off. Like, if you're getting fried with your own lightning, quit it. Stop
doing that. Quit it. Yeah, don't do that anymore. Ouch! It hurts when I touch it. Quit
every
touching it.
time you start electrocuting yourself, you can stop electrocuting yourself.
No, but it's
That's
like
just
when
doesn't
you
make any
grab an
sense.
electric fence. It's just, you're convulsing. You can't stop.
But he's convulsing, so he should have to stop. He's not.
No.
He is.
It's like anytime he clenches, lightning comes out, and then when lightning hits him, he can't stop clenching. It's just a vicious cycle.
Ugh.
Every time he has a hard turn, he shits out a bit of lightning.
All right, are we about ready here? Because I do have to get
let's
up
do it.
like mega early.
Yeah, but
Come on.
man, we're gonna be done when we're done.
I get that, but we eventually have to start.
Yeah, I like the idea of
Okay.
making this about an hour and a half. Let's do it. Let's get to midnight.
All right, so what we're gonna do
You
this
bet.
week, because the clapping didn't work so well last time, we're gonna change the clapping.
There's a good idea.
I think that we can catch though. If you go 1, 2, 3, and then we clap. I think we can nail it. Like because we know what's happening. It's just
All right, I'm gonna count to 5 though. That way you can get more prepared and ready. All right, so we're gonna clap on the number 5, not before, not after, but on 5. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
that should have did it.
Parker never claps. He's just staring at his hands.
Is he making
I don't
number
know why
5?
you think this is funny. You're wasting time.
Okay,
I give very precise instructions
Okay.
so that we don't have to do this more than once.
I'm not kidding.
4th try.
I'm not
Parker's
kidding.
just looking at his hands like,
What I was
thinking about?
What I was thinking the whole time was, this is a really elegant solution to this problem. I think this is a good idea.
All right,
And
we're
you
going to
said
count
five.
to 176.
Parker, do you realize I know where you live? I know where your house is. I know exactly where you are in relation to me right now, and I have a gun.
Got it. You can
And
point
you're
it
gonna
right.
not clap when I say clap one
Got
more
it.
fucking time. All
Got
right,
it.
are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. swear to God, you fucking... Jeremy,
perfect.
did you clap?
I on 7.5. Is that what you said? 7.5.
Yeah, I think I said around 8 8.25.
Clap on 13.
8 1/4, but wait a second. God,
Mine
damn.
was.
I think we got it on that one.
Mine
We can
was
do it one more time to line up both if you want. I mean, I think we got
mine
it
was
though.
Benissimo.
Yeah, I'll get Parker to clap on 5 once. I'll get you to clap on 5 once. I'll sync up the different 5s, and then that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the best idea.
Hold on, I got it. That took us 4 minutes just to fucking clap. You guys are retarded. seething hatred. That's all I'm made of at this point. All right. So we're going to do announcements. Do we have any news? I guess we'll do news. Announcements is more of our news. Do we have anything to tell people? Okay, so we'll do news, then we'll go into our normal recurring topics. So if you guys have played anything or were hobbied on anything, get that ready. I'll do a small announcement about last.
A lot.
Okay. So get ready to talk about your painted stuff. Parker's obviously done nothing because he doesn't do stuff.
He's reading about fucking Cyclops again.
Okay.
Show me on the model where it touched you. Do you want us to clap or dance again or something?
I do want us to clap again because I don't trust you idiots. Alright. Is anyone not recording or somehow only has 8 minutes of audio recorded this time before I drive to your house with a knife?
I have 3 hours and 10 minutes on both of mine.
Sounds about right.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Shit. I was gonna literally gouge my eyes out with a spoon.
Well,
I wonder how many people started listening to the last podcast and stopped because of Jeremy.
It wasn't fucking me. My computer sucks. I fixed it.
It wasn't me. It was just my responsibility.
Can we clap?
Let's do the clap thing, and then we'll.
It's gonna take a while.
Right. So we're gonna clap on 5. Ready? On 5.
Got it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. That looked pretty close based on my 1.5 second delay on Discord.
Can I stop?
Yeah.
All right. Stop recording.